Hello, I'm Darren Magee, and today's topic comes from a question asking what are the effects of coddling and being infantilized? So, today I'm going to look at the different ways infantilizing can happen, the effects it can have on people, and lastly, a possible antidote. So, if you find this topic interesting, please consider subscribing. Now, infantilizing generally refers to treating someone as if they're an infant or a child, regardless of their actual age or their capabilities. Coddling, well, that would refer to being overly protective, treating someone as if they're vulnerable somehow. And although it's fair to say the intent can be good, for instance, someone could genuinely be trying to protect others from some kind of distress or hardship, but it can also be coercive and controlling, a way of making someone dependent. But the behavior itself can be patronizing, demeaning, and disempowering, and it often involves speaking to or treating people in a way that undermines their independence, autonomy, or maturity. And it can happen in a wide range of situations or environments. It could happen in relationships, families, workplaces, universities, pretty much anywhere. But some common examples of infantilizing could include, first of all, speaking to someone, but using an exaggerated, simple language or a condescending, childlike tone. There could be maybe exaggerated praise for just someone completing a simple task. Or maybe depending on the intent, it could be said in a sarcastic tone. Then there could be disregarding or dismissing someone's thoughts or ideas as if that person isn't competent enough to contribute. But infantilizing can also be a way of controlling someone. In a relationship, someone might make all of the decisions, handle the finances, and expect their partner to run every idea by them. It's almost like they're asking for permission. Or someone could take over tasks or make decisions for someone else who is perfectly capable of doing it themselves. In families, a parent might treat their adult children as if they are helpless infants, treat them as if they're incapable of handling certain situations, and don't give them the chance to prove otherwise. Or there are those who want to micromanage other people's lives. Now, this might involve intervening whenever they're not wanted or needed, making decisions or solving problems that the other person could manage independently. Now, the concept of safe spaces can sometimes be seen as infantilizing or coddling, but safe spaces I don't think are necessarily a bad idea, in the sense that some events or topics may have controversial or distressing content. Some people may just want to go gather their thoughts or maybe ground themselves afterwards. But while the intention is often to create a supportive atmosphere, critics argue that in some cases it actually shields adults from exposure to different opinions and challenges, and it treats them as if they cannot handle diverse perspectives. Another controversy, if you will, could be trigger warnings. Now, a trigger typically refers to something that causes an emotional response in someone. It's something that might bring up sadness, anger, anxiety, or whatever. But in the context of trauma, a trigger is something that sets off a memory or a flashback in someone who has suffered a traumatic experience. They can feel as if they're right back in that traumatic situation. Now, some even advocate for censorship or removal of certain ideas, opinions, or content from public spaces, and this is based on the belief that exposure to such content might be emotionally harmful. Now, I'm not sure if they're suggesting it might evoke an emotional response that they think people won't be able to handle, or if they believe people will be traumatized or perhaps re traumatized by whatever that content is. But while trigger warnings may be helpful for those who are dealing with trauma, critics argue that the widespread overuse can create an environment where adults are shielded from any uncomfortable or challenging content. But some of the long-term effects of infantilizing, being overly coddled, or being constantly treated as if they're incapable or immature, can lead to a sense of frustration in people, especially if they feel that decisions are being made on their behalf. They're being told what they can and cannot do, as if they're not capable of making their own minds up or coping with difficulties. Now, in relationships, whether personal or professional, being treated as if incapable can strain relationships. It can lead to resentment or a sense of being patronized. People can start to doubt their own abilities and feel a diminished sense of self-worth. It can also lead to a lack of trust, effective communication, and collaboration. It can also create dependence. Whenever adults are consistently infantilized, they might become overly dependent on others to make decisions or handle tasks for them. This can hinder their independence and their problem solving skills. In an environment where adults are shielded from consequences and decision making, well, there might be a decline in personal responsibility, accountability, and even ethical decision making. Can also lead to a lack of resilience in the face of challenges. Whenever someone isn't encouraged to or even allowed to confront difficulties, even learn from their setbacks, well, they can struggle to face and overcome problems. They might even become risk averse. Can also lead to underdeveloped coping mechanisms. People could struggle to handle stress or any kind of adversity. Those who are consistently coddled and infantilized might find it challenging to assert their boundaries or express their needs. It can also have a negative impact on mental health. Whenever people feel disempowered, a lack of agency, and feel dependent on others, they can experience higher levels of stress, anxiety, or depression due to believing they have a lack of control over their own lives. Being constantly supervised and controlled can also erode someone's confidence and their resilience. Lastly, long term shielding people from different perspectives and ideas can reduce their creativity and their critical thinking skills. Can also see a lack of emotional regulation. Someone might believe they're being traumatized when in fact they're really just experiencing a normal emotional reaction to a specific situation, such as disagreement or disappointment. In some cases, being overly coddled can create a sense of entitlement. It's like everything should be easy, anything difficult is unfair. So, to summarize, infantilizing adults can manifest in various forms, from environments or practices that prioritize a perceived emotional fragility, to not allowing someone to have any agency or autonomy in their own life. As I said earlier, sometimes it can be well meaning but perhaps misinformed. Other times, it can be a way of creating a sense of control over others. And lastly, the antidote to having been infantilized, well, having a healthy level of confidence, courage, and resilience. I think you can become your own safe space. That's not always easy to develop, but if you need help, I think counseling is a good place to start. So, there are my thoughts on infantilizing and the effects it can have on people. And I know perspectives and opinions on what is infantilizing and coddling may vary from person to person. Some people may appreciate certain measures that are aimed at creating supportive environments, while others may perceive them as limiting personal responsibility and autonomy. I think the balance between creating a nurturing environment and fostering independence can be a difficult balance to get right. But I would be interested in your thoughts or experiences on this topic, so please use the comment section. Let me know what you think. But if you find this topic interesting, please consider subscribing. And until next time, thanks for joining me.